Hello, after a little break on my Anthony Trollope, because I kind of zipped through a good hunk there, I'm checking in with chapters 41 and 42 of He Knew He Was Right, Trollope's 1969 or 1969 novel. 1969, yeah, we'll go with 1969 novel about jealous husband, a defiant, overproud, wants to get her way wife. And in this section, we're actually we're again not focusing on those two rather unlikable characters. We are focusing in on sort of two proposals to women where both of them say no. And we have a lot of stuff about how women, when they say no, just means you got to press harder if you're the guy, which kind of leads to some rather gross stuff, especially when you have kind of a male author who, with the first proposal, it is to Nora Morley, sister of Emily, Emily of the main couple, whose last name I've now is blanked out of my mind because I took a break, but she says no, and he kind of is rough with her. He kind of pulls her to her. He's like, and he definitely goes away, even though she said no. She's like, she's done it flustered enough, kind of hot enough that he's like, he takes it as a victory. And she, on her thing, is like, well, how dare he? Like, that was terrible. And she feels like she's got pulled. But as Anthony Trollope writes it, it's also like, oh, she's hot. She liked it. She liked it. She's like, oh, wow, he is getting to me. When I did say no there, it's like, oh, yes, I really do want it because, I said no because we're both poor, but, maybe we can have a long engagement and he'll get rise and station and we'll be able to get married. And, it's like it comes off as pretty gross to a modern reader of when a woman says no. A woman is saying no, and kind of pushing at them and forcing them isn't a sexy thing. It's more of a kind of an assault. But this is definitely the thing of the still trope that still is around of the guy pushes and it shows his virility and the woman likes it actually, secretly, which is the message that we've given to train up lots of little boys to be assaultive men in our society. So there's that. On the other, now in the next chapter, we have Dorothy Standish, who is the sister, the sister of Hugh Standish, the suitor with Nora, and she gets proposed by the Reverend Mr. Gibson, who asks him, like, would you marry me? And she says no. I'm just not. I just don't feel that way about you. It's like, no, it's not going to happen. And he's a little bit irked because it's like he was like, well, I was sort of set up with one of the French sisters who've both been being total mean girl about her. And he's just sort of assumed that, she is a shy, timid girl. And it was basically for her for his taking. And like now that he's been offered money, like £2,000 by Miss Standish, the wealthy widow, her aunt, Dorothy's aunt, that she was going to, just fall into his lap. And he had been advised by a friend as well that, when they say when the woman says no, just press harder and you'll push them into it, and they like that. And he's kind of considering like, oh, okay, I've got my first no. Should I? When Miss Standish comes in and goes, no, she is a stubborn girl. She is not going to. This is it. She's not going to do it, and it's partially your fault for treating her like just an easily taken prize. And they get into a bit of a fight, and that represents a split, which is Mr. Gibson was sort of this Miss Standish, this wealthy widow, was sort of one of his patrons, one of the people that he was, kind of pumping him up. But no, they've had a bit of a split. And indeed, as it's framed in the chapter, it's Miss Standish, the wealthy widow, and Mr. Gibson become two. They are no longer a unit in this little community. They are separated. So it's much more of a split between the wealthy widow and the this curate. I think it's curate and the thing. So it's there's a little bit of comedic thing there. It's interesting that we have two women saying no, one where it was like, oh, I where it's like, oh, don't take it seriously, and she really wants it, and that's how Trollope writes Nora, that's sort of what it is. Whereas with Dorothy, it's like, nope, I don't want it, and yeah, that is true. That is what. So you have to give it to Trollope. He actually does make nuance there that for some women it might mean that, but for other women, nope, she just doesn't want you, and you should fuck off. I guess puts it a little bit more nuanced that way. There's so many of the Victorian novels though where women are not listened to, which really frustrates me as a reader. It's like, fuck off these guys who are just bullying along, pushing at them. And I mean, maybe there's a part of my own personality there of like, if a woman says no, well, that means a woman says no, and you fuck off. You don't push things. Which, when you're completely hot for another person, sometimes that can be hard to tell. And you live in a society where people discount women's voices, then it really becomes easy to fall into that I'm going to discount what they say, which gets you really into dark territory, really, really dark territory, which, doesn't come up in a Trollope novel or most Victorian novels, but it's just an interesting thing there. So I will leave it there with those two chapters tonight. Even Trollope, when I don't particularly care about the characters, there's always so many interesting things to think about, and the nuances that he gets at, and the characters. They are vivid characters. And, it's funny. It's like I'm not missing Emily and Lewis. Trevelyan, I think it is, Trevail. Gee, I've forgotten the main characters' names. I guess they're the main characters, but you really don't want them to be the main characters. They're more like the festering problem at the middle of this book. But yeah. So that's where I'm at. Just dipping my toes a little bit back into Trollope. Today, as I've mentioned already, is not a big day for getting lots of stuff done because of my back, but I got 2 chapters started, so that's good. All right, more videos later as the sirens come to take me away.